And we are back. We thank you so much for being here on this lovely Tuesday edition of the Doing All Right podcast. Bryan Broaddus reached in his phone, his golden phone, and found us a friend of the show, former Cowboy scout, now the Senior Bowl director, Drew Fabianich. How you doing, sir?
Good, fellas. Good pleasure to be here.
So, Drew, you're in the big chair when it comes to Senior Bowl, and the Senior Bowl is the most useful draft metric in my mind because we get to see a lot of one-on-ones. We see real ball played there. When you're building this roster, how do you balance the big hype prospects versus some guys that maybe need a look, Of course, you would want a whole bunch of T.J. Parkers. You would want a lot of those guys. But I walked away learning a lot from Keelan Rutledge or Max E. Honichor. I don't even know if I said his name right. So how do you balance the big hype name guys versus some guys that need a look?
Well, it really comes, that I truly wanted to build this roster of the selling point to agents and to players is that I want 100% of the initial 140 to be drafted. And, again, Bryan and I worked with a guy that's, once said that, if you go to the Senior Bowl, you're going to get drafted. Well, that's where I wanted to establish, my Mendoza line was, again, whether you're a seventh rounder or you're a first rounder, I'd like to find the ones that the league are most interested in, the ones I would be most interested in. And we do a very good job of identifying these guys because we have 4 guys on staff here that evaluate the tape. And then we send it out, the list to our 10 area scouts across the country. And they go to games when they can. They're not area scouts as, quote, they don't go into the buildings like, we used to as, in the NFL. But they do tape work, throughout. And then we cross-check them through meetings in October. Well, technically, they cross-check our grades. And then once the October grades come in and I meet with all those guys, then we recheck them. So we build the board off of that, and we build it just like an NFL ball club would. And, Phil Savage started it, and then Jim continued it. And then, I just tried to refine it and just make it a little bit cleaner, make it a little bit faster. I think we did get, on top of this really quickly, which I think helped us. Okay. Now, going like you were talking about the under the radar guys, some of those guys, I had a little birdie that told me about Delby Lemieux that went to school with him. I watched his tape as a junior, and, he was really, really athletic, but he only weighed about 275 pounds. Yeah. So I was like, nah, I can't jump on board on that one yet. Now, he slowly started to gain weight, and, and again, he started to develop. Now, I said he's a center because he didn't have the arm length to be a tackle. He didn't have the girth to be a guard, but he was really, really athletic. And again, sometimes you dumb up into things like that and you find guys. But once you do, then once the word gets out, then it starts growing. The Charles Demings of the world, the Ty Montgomerys of the world. I didn't identify Ty Montgomery out of John Carroll. He just did such a good job down at the American Bowl that we had to bring him up because, he did a bang up job down there. And again, we look at what the league wants to do too, also what they want to see, whether it's, Michael Taft playing some nickel, not just safety, McMurray playing some nickel and some safety. We try to accommodate, what NFL clubs like to see, and that's why we bring in NFL coaches, because I can tell them, look, I said, the league wants to see this guy as a sub-3 technique, but we want to play him in as an end in regular downs. And they're really good about helping me with that. So, don't know if I answered your question totally, but I tried to.
You did good.
You did great. You did great. One thing that I noticed last year, Bryan and I noticed this, that there were a ton of players that we thought were talented, but they either weren't drafted or they were just drafted later in general. And, we just go back and talk to some of our friends, beat writers, and, just people that just cover the draft. And turns out character issues were like a big thing in the draft last year. We won't talk about like recent news, but do you think that the league is moving towards less tolerance when they're talking to some of these guys, and maybe they're just more likely to take a player that doesn't have character marks on them, or pardon me, if they have character marks, they're just more willing to just move on and just not even draft that guy in general. Just an example, like maybe they're thinking that players make a lot of money now in college, and maybe there's not a lot of love for the game now, so maybe that that's something that they're seeing. It was just a lot of guys on last year's draft that Bryan and I had ranked in third rounds, maybe fourth or fifth, and they just went undrafted, and just turns out it was character. And sometimes teams will, say, well, if he can play, I'm going to take him. But I didn't see a bunch of that last year. Do you agree with that?
Somewhat. It depends on the issue. Mm-hmm. There's certain issues that have always been kind of a deal breaker for a lot of teams, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's, assault charges, whether it's gun charges, things like that. Those are ones that will quickly get you off the board. Certain things you can be a little bit more tolerant of, but again, that's up to clubs. But I think it's become, like you said, more of a line that some teams need to draw. And I don't think they want to actually ruin what they put together in the locker room by just a couple of bad apples that come in that won't get controlled by the locker room. Now, if you can bring people in that will be team players and will adhere to the culture that you have in the locker room, you have to spend a lot of time figuring that out. And you also have to figure out, here's the other piece of this too. Like you said about our game, and the one thing about it is the league wants you to go through this process. And this is just one piece of the process. They want you to show that you can be accountable, you can be mature, you can handle the interview process, you can be on time with NFL coaches, you can do exactly what you're coached to do. You're going to practice, you're going to play in the game, because playing in the game and doing practice is big, because again, it shows that you actually enjoy playing this game. Because if you don't like playing, and if you don't love playing the game, an NFL locker room will eat your ass alive. It will weed you out so quickly, and you will not last long at all. The other piece of this is I think that, you have to understand a lot of these young men have been entitled since they were like ninth grade. And they've always had their hand held. They've always gotten everything done for them. This is the first time they kind of get pushed away. And guess what? You're on your own. And we tell you what time you're supposed to be there. Are you there? Do you do what you're supposed to do? Do you handle this the right way? Do you act like a professional? So there's a lot of pieces to this. But I mean, the process of the Senior Bowl, then the Combine, then your pro day, and then the 30 visits if somebody's interested in bringing you in for a 30 visit. That's the process the league wants you to do. Well, if you deviate from that process, then the league will penalize you. There are a lot of guys that didn't get drafted where they should have because they didn't respect the process. But the league wants you to understand that if you respect the process and do things the right way, at least they're more comfortable paying you millions of dollars to put them in your building.
Drew, you were a longtime coach and, worked on the defensive side of the ball, defensive coordinator, ran your own department, stuff like that. Longtime NFL scout. And the thing that now I kind of wonder is the line between coaches scouting and the relationships they have within the scouting department and stuff like that when it comes to putting boards together and drafting players. And I ask you this question because of your history with the Dallas Cowboys. And I wonder, was that something that you were completely comfortable with? Or was it something that was a little bit of getting used to, that the coaches do have a big say in a lot of the work that you guys were doing for months? And maybe that affected how you saw players.
I don't think it affected how I saw players. I think it might have affected how some people saw players, because I was still going to tell you exactly what I thought about a player. I think that, put it this way, it isn't that I think the best players that we ever brought in, it wasn't the scouting department liked this guy or the coaching staff liked this guy. Mm-hmm. It was that we liked this guy where we drafted him. Because if a coach likes the player and wants the player in the building, he's going to coach his ass off to make him exactly what he said he needed to be. The biggest mistakes were the ones that we forced on coaches, I thought. And we just call them toe tag guys, because as soon as they walked in the building, they had a toe tag. They're already dead to a coach, and they didn't want to coach them. And they almost wanted to prove to you that, guess what? You guys screwed up. And again, they will almost fight you on it. So I think there's got to be a synergy between the coaching staff and the scouting department. And I think there were a lot of times, with the Cowboys. And again, we did draft a lot of Pro Bowl appearances while I was there.
Sure.
And, and again, I think it was a successful formula for the most part when we came together. And yes, a coach does have to like the player, because if he doesn't, I promise you, he won't coach him.
If fans want to know then about, like, okay, when then you have an idea of a guy, and I'm just bringing up the players that we've seen here recently, and it seems like there's been a disconnect with defensive players with the Cowboys. Whether there's been some offensive line. Now, we've seen the guys like Bland and Oso Digizua and, those kinds of guys have some success. But we've also seen the Tristan Hills. We've seen the Taco Charltons. Where do you feel like, looking back, that was a disconnect there, or was it just the player? We didn't vision the player the right way.
I don't think we visioned the player the right way. I really don't. And I'm not going to bash either one of those players.
Sure.
Sometimes you actually reach a little bit for a need. And I think that maybe in both cases we reached a little bit, but they were the right scheme fit. Now, were they the right person fit? Were they the right cultural fit? Were they the right, did they have the right maturity? Were they true professionals? Was there something missing? Again, you don't get to spend a lot of time with these guys. You really don't. This is not like Major League Baseball. You don't get to go hang out with their family for 3 months and, and visit with the kid, hang out with him and all that. If you can get 3.5 hours with a player, that's huge, because normally you're not even getting that. So again, you're going to make mistakes. And a lot of times, I think the biggest mistakes that were made, it wasn't about player ability. It was about the character of the player. And that's where most of the misses are across the league. And that's fact. And again, I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to bash either player, but,
sure,
were they the right fit, for, the culture? Were they? I can't answer that because I wasn't in the building all the time.
I was going to ask you, though, about that as we, because you mentioned about the right fit and stuff like that. When you have something like that happen to you, do you go back and circle back and say, okay, we maybe need to change the way that we evaluate or the process that we do to? And I just always seem like the Cowboys, it was always about the consensus. And you seem to feel like that you're okay with the consensus of the player. The best players you guys have taken is because of consensus. But
yeah,
did it ever, was there ever a time where you said, listen, guys, and you were a director, did you ever say we need to change or think about how we're evaluating these players as character or that type of way?
I think you just have to delve into the character more, Brian, because again, you just don't have time. Yeah. And there's a perfect example. There was one that was drafted midway through my career with the Cowboys, that all the coaches at his place just raved about him, got great study habits, he understands ball, he picks it up really quickly. Mm. And then when he gets in the building, he's one of the laziest guys in the world. Yeah. And didn't work at it, didn't study it, didn't prepare the right way. But you're relying on people that, you're supposed to trust. Yeah. But when it all comes down to it, if you don't know those people personally, they're going to lie to you because they want the kid to go as high as they possibly can to make themselves look better in recruiting or bringing players in. So the biggest part of it is you try to spend as much possible time with these guys as you can, whether it's, here in the interview process at the combine. You got 2 opportunities to get them there too. If you really have issues with somebody, if you really don't feel like you know them, you bring them in for the 30 visit. Because a lot of people think that 30 visits say, hey, it's everybody we like. It's their top. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's about guys that you like, but it's also about guys you got concerns about and you need to get to know. Because again, those were the biggest mistakes. And the consensus piece, and I'll give Jason Garrett credit for this. Yeah. He always said the higher the guy is, the cleaner he has to be. And I totally believe that. And those first-round guys and those second-round guys and those third-round guys, they better not have a lot of holes in them. And if they do have holes in them, well, then you probably shouldn't be taking them there.
Drew, my favorite kind of player. I love these old dudes, these old seniors, these fifth-year guys. With the COVID year, now we got these 6-year guys and all that. I feel like the league kind of knocks some of these guys for being 25 years old, but I love it because you've played a bunch of football and you have a bunch of technique under your belt that maybe you didn't have in year 3 or something like that. How do you balance that evaluation of, okay, well, by the time you're done with this contract, you'll be 30, but damn, I know he can play right now. He has pass rush moves, he has counters, he knows how to do run game stuff right now, but he's 25. How do you balance that, and how do you get somebody else on your team to where maybe they don't like an older player and you're just trying to convince them hey man, Melo Height, no, he can play right now. Mesidor can play right now and he's 25, 26. How do you balance that?
Well, I think the league, again, this is part of you already made one of my points that, by the time he gets to his second contract, there's a lot of wear and tear on the body already. And you're thinking about long term, and you're going okay, well, maybe he gets into that second contract. Maybe he doesn't, because he has played a boatload of ball. I mean, just look at running backs. I mean, just the amount of carries that guys have, and once they hit a certain plateau, I mean, it seems to just drop off a cliff, and that's happened year in and year out with running backs. You like what you're getting. You got a well-coached, well-refined player that exactly what you're getting, which is a good thing. But you also have to look at it as, is there any upside to this guy? Is he going to get better? Is he going to improve? Or is he kind of topped out? Because I'd rather take a younger player that's got more upside and less wear on the tire than I would a guy that is well-refined, well-coached, and has kind of topped out. And that's kind of what I used to even say in recruiting, like in Texas. I'd rather take an inner city kid over a burb kid any day of the week, because those burb kids have been in the same system since ninth grade. They've had 25 coaches, in JV and junior high, and then they've got 30 guys coaching them in college, in high school and everything. They got a weight program, and they're topped out. And by the time you get them there, you're like, okay, they are what they are. But then you take the inner city kid that doesn't have the resources, and you take him, because guess what? He's going to be a better player when it's all said and done, because he's got more traits. And again, I think you have to balance that, but you also have to look at it as philosophical as what you're looking for in your program. And again, you're going to get pushback either way. This guy's a better player right now. This guy's younger. I mean, there's arguments going back and forth, but again, that's just where I would lean. My bias is hair on fire guys.
Yeah.
Not aged guys. So Bryan will tell you about that.
Absolutely. We're joined here by Drew Fabianich, former NFL scout with the Dallas Cowboys, now director of the Senior Bowl. By the way, boss, great job on your roster and all that. Hell of a game, hell of practices, all that stuff. Great job by you there. Voch and I get in this discussion all the time, and you brought up the running back position. And so you were part of the 2016 draft with Ezekiel Elliott and the decision where it came down to Ramsey or Ezekiel Elliott there. And, a lot of people say, hey, you're not supposed to take a running back that high. But we're in a draft right now, Drew, where the Cowboys specifically, they could use a safety. They could use a running back. What about these positions that you're not supposed to take high? But the discussion you guys had in 2016 of taking Ezekiel Elliott.
Well, the one thing about Zeke, I mean, and people kind of forget about, the last couple of years at Ohio State and about his first 3 years with the Cowboys, he was really damn good.
Yeah. And
he was kind of one of those missing pieces that we needed on offense, to kind of complete the weapon package, for Dak. Again, did we know Zach was going to start right off the bat? No, we didn't, but it sure helped having Zeke Elliott back there to help him, because, he had some maturation process that Dak had to go through too. I think it depends on where you feel, the most impactful a position can be. Could Ramsey have been impactful? Hell yes. Absolutely. He'd been impactful his whole entire career. But, Zeke was awful damn impactful too throughout his, career till, like I said, till he kind of hit the Mendoza line and started going downhill. And I think that just naturally happens with running backs because, they take a pounding. And God, I wouldn't want to get hit like those guys get hit in the league because unless you've been on the sideline during an NFL game, you have no idea how fast it is and you have no idea how hard the impacts are on people's bodies. It's like going to a car. You're like in a car wreck every Sunday.
Yeah.
And you feel like it on Mondays. So do I think you should reach for a running back? No, but if he's that good, and Zeke Elliott was really good with the ball, not in his hand also. One of the best pass protectors, one of the best blocking, running backs. He could have been a core teamer if you would want him to. He was a really good player. So again, that's something philosophical that we did. And again, I don't think it was a wrong move. Would Jalen Ramsey have been a really good player with the Cowboys? Hell yes, he would have been. But Zeke Elliott was too.
Yeah, see, that's what I was saying. That I think we're getting to a point now where there's a lot of people that will fight you. They'll fight you on downs. They'll fight you on love. They'll fight you on these guys that you're not supposed to take these positions. I'm too old school. I'm like, damn, just give me players. Just give me the best players, and I'll figure it all out. Where are we falling on the list now? Are you still like me, or are you like, oh, I'm trying to understand it, Bryan, this metrics and all this crap that we're dealing with right now?
No. And again, the whole analytics thing, guess what? We've been doing analytics for the last 40 years of the combine. That's the hell, the combine is. Yeah. It's comparisons against other players. And again, we've got data coming out left and right. We got telemetry, we got Zebra, we got everything that, you can track guys, you can track accelerations, decelerations. You can overanalyze this thing. But when you turn on the tape, can this guy play? It's like Parcells said, I need two more check boxes on this, on this report. Can he play or he can't play?
Yeah.
One of the two.
Yeah.
And when you look at like Downs, the reason why he's not very productive is because he's that damn good. And Matt Patricia did a really good job of using him as a chess piece. Playing nickel, playing a money backer sometimes, playing free, playing strong. The kid's as close to Ed Reed as I've seen, in a long time. And would you take Ed Reed in the top 10?
Yeah.
Right now?
Yeah.
Would you take Sean Taylor in the top 10 right now? I think you'd consider it, wouldn't you? If you knew what you're going to get.
Right.
Could get a Hall of Famer, right?
Yeah.
Could. But you got to make that decision. I'm still about, can he play? And again, most of this is like, well, how productive was he or how unproductive was he? And this goes back to what we were talking about a long time ago with Garrett Nussmeier. Yeah. The reason why, heck, he threw for 4,000 yards and 24 touchdowns as a junior.
Yep, sure did.
And again, you turn on the tape this year and you go, okay, there's something wrong here. And you find out he's injured. Then they couldn't run the football. They couldn't protect him. Some of the receivers they brought in weren't very effective. And they didn't play great defense either. So, again, that wasn't a formula for him to be successful. Now, comes down here, he's healthy, and now people are talking about him again like they were at the start of the season, weren't they? So, again, look at the why and why people are either productive or unproductive, whether they can play or they can't play. Because most of the time when you turn on the tape, just like when you're evaluating, you go, hey, guess what? This guy can play.
Yeah.
Now we just got to put him at the right value and decide whether he's a starter, whether he's a backup, whether he's a role player. And that's the final part of it. Just those three: starter, backup, role player. So that's what it all comes down to. Can he play football?
Drew, Bryan said something that just jogged my memory. I'm a young man, so don't kill me on this one, right? 32 years old, right? But the best player I've ever seen in college was Miles Jack coming out of UCLA. So when Bryan was talking about that draft, if you could just take us behind the scenes in Cowboy land when, you guys were around and having that convo, not that Miles may have been an option for you guys there, but just what did you guys think about him as a player? Because he was one of the best linebackers I've ever seen in my life. And then they let him play running back. I was just blown away by Miles Jack.
Well, I agree with you. He's a very good linebacker. He wasn't in my top four, the ones I evaluated, but the ones I'm going to bring up to you later, ones you probably don't remember.
Yeah.
So, but Miles Jack was really, really athletic. I mean, could play in space. And that's what was big. I mean, if you were a 3-down linebacker, you're valuable. If you're a 2-down linebacker, you're not that valuable. I mean, we can find 2-down guys almost everywhere, but to have a guy that can play 3 downs and be a sub backer and not come off the field, that's where their value comes. And Miles Jack was one of those guys. And if I remember right, he played really, really well for the first 3 years. And I think he had a knee issue, if I remember right.
He did.
But again, I was lucky enough to be around Zach Thomas, Dat Wynn, and Sean Lee.
Sure.
Yeah.
And like I said, those 3 were my top 3 that I was up close and personal with, and I thought they were incredible players. But Miles Jack was a really good player too. Now, would we have taken him in that first round? I don't remember our roster right then, but if we were going to take a backer that was a 3-down backer, we would have taken him in the first round or the top of the second. That's just how our philosophy, that's what our philosophy was.
Okay, so let me just get back to current day, right? Thank you so much for taking me down memory lane there. The Cowboys today, they're sitting with the 12th and the 20th. And I'm going to ask everybody that we talk to this offseason, would you rather have 2 top 20 picks or 3 top 100 picks?
3 top 100 picks.
Okay, you want the picks, please.
Yeah. Well, I want the picks because, again, I think this draft kind of falls a little short around the top of the 5th round. It's really solid, like 4th on up. And I would rather have more picks. Okay. And if I was going to go down just maybe 10 spots, I'd jump all over that because the more picks, the better. If you get more picks, you can also play with those picks because you can trade back up into something you truly want. And you see a player that's been slipping and you don't know why he's slipping, but he's high on your board. So then you may use those picks to come back up and take somebody you really value. And again, I'm always going to take the picks. Now, the problem is we used to have some people in the building that used to always say, well, trade down. I was like, you have to have somebody that wants to trade.
Yeah.
For you to trade down.
Yeah.
It isn't like they're manufactured. I mean, you're not calling them and saying, hey, we'd like to trade down.
Yeah.
We'd like to trade down. I mean, that's not how it works. And again, I think it's better to have in the top 100 just because I think I'd say about 175, is you're in a pretty good range of a good player in that area this year. Because we do the whole board, and we got a whole vertical board set up just like an NFL team. And I can look at it and tell you the positions of strength, and I can tell you the positions of weakness, and just the numbers alone. And that's where I would. And again, I keep repeating myself. I'd take the picks.
Sure.
Old scout in you, man.
For
picks,
sure.
Picks. Give me picks,
Yep.
right?
This is the last one for me, Drew. Me and Bryan had our first big fight a couple days ago. Wasn't really a fight, but in terms of me and him, this was a big fight for us. We were watching linebackers, and we just watch everybody. We just go down the list or whatnot, and we ended up on the linebacker Golday from Cincinnati. Bryan had like a 1.40 on him. I had a 1.27. Tell us why I'm right. And that Golday would be more suited for the second round, for a late second round, or like the 4th round. Bryan texts some of his buddies to see if he can get some backup and all that, and his buddies kind of fell in the middle of us. Why do you have Jake Golday, the linebacker from Cincinnati?
He's about to tell you the truth. Get ready for this guy.
I love the truth.
He's about to tell you the truth.
I love the damn truth.
He's a 3rd rounder all day long.
Yeah.
That's what he is. I mean, is he a Sam? Is he a Mike? Is he a Will? Well, he's probably really a Mike.
Oh, okay.
You could say he could be a nickel Sam, but that doesn't give him a lot of snaps, which takes away the value. But I think he could be a starting Mike in the league. Is he great in space? No. He's a little bit stiff. He's a great blitzer, got good instincts, plays hard, got good speed, got good range. But again, there's some holes in his game, and it's about being in space. And for him to be a 3-down backer, it's possible as a Mike, but you wouldn't want to put him at will because he would get isolated too much and he would struggle in space and in coverage. Really good player. But I mean, could somebody reach and take him in the late second, middle second? Yeah, they could. But I'd be real comfortable saying he's a 3. And I could see where Bryan would say he's a fourth, because just the verbiage that we would always said on the fourth is, hey, he's a really, really solid backup. And if he starts, it's gravy. And we've kind of won on that pick. So if you could get him in the fourth and he ends up being a starter, then you look like a guru. You take him in the 30 starts, and then guess what? You're happy. You take him in the middle second and he ends up being a 2-down linebacker. You're probably going to get your ass kicked a little bit for that one.
Yeah. Okay. So we always talk about the Cowboy grading scale, and I think I got this right, but Voch had him at 127. I was like in the 140 range, and you have him in the third. Where would your grade be for a third-round guy like him? Where would you put him?
Probably like right around 133.
Okay, so
right in there.
So you're closer to Voch than you are to me on this one, then.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because I think he's a dead starter in the league. I do.
Yeah. See, to me, I wasn't sure that he could play Mike. That's what my biggest question was.
And I think that's what he is.
Yeah.
And, again, because when they play him at Sam, they're bringing him most of the time.
Yeah.
And, is he really out in space that often? No. Hey, Vod, I got to ask you this one, though. Sure. When you watch players with Bryan Broaddus, do you only watch one player at a time when you have three players on the same defense that you should be looking at?
I have to watch just one guy.
See, he's the same way.
I have to watch one guy. He kind of raised me in that way. I've been following him for a long time. So even if I get distracted, right, like I'm watching R.M. Thomas, I can't focus on the
Heineke.
Right. Or like Gooseby. Oh, well, I just know that he's whooping Gooseby. I can't tell you what Gooseby's doing back to him. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I can only watch one guy at a time. That's just big time scout. Just because you went to Nebraska and you got to watch 20 guys back in the day and you wrote reports on 20 guys, just call me out on that. That's why you're the big time scout. I'm just sitting there with a microphone and a camera, as my man Voch likes to say. I don't want to.
I told him. I said the reason why I had to do it is because I had to do it.
You had to do it
because
you had no choice.
I didn't have time.
You had no choice.
You had no choice. When you're looking at 6 guys on defense and you sit there and go like, I'm concentrating on one guy the whole day.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
I'm wasting 6 days then on the guys. You just don't have time. So it's like, find out what they are, make the report, put it down, and keep watching. And you can press rewind as many times as you want.
Yeah.
Which was great. Yeah. But I had to operate that way. And
you had to get to the next place. I understand that.
Right.
You had to get to the next place.
Right.
It was, and you were a national guy, so you were seeing them all. You were seeing all the players. Drew, I'm going to let you go on this one then. And again, thank you so much for your time. I know you got a lot of things going on all day long. I was going to ask you this, as a former defensive coordinator, as a guy that worked in college football and did all these things, the Cowboys, where do they start? And I know you've got to focus in on your players, but where does Dallas defensively need to start? Is it the secondary? Is it the linebackers? I kind of feel like the defensive tackles are okay. The edges, maybe that's the questions. Where, as you, Drew Fabianich, look at the Cowboys defensively and say, listen, they need to go this direction with their new defensive coordinator?
I think first of all, they need to be able to stop the damn run to earn themselves into sub downs.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. Now, whether that's bringing in another defensive tackle, which maybe one more, because like you said, they're not bad.
Yeah.
The ends probably need a little bit of an upgrade. They could probably use, another Will, and they could probably use another safety and another corner too.
Yeah.
And again, I'm sure they're going to address what they feel like they need. And I'm sure that, the young defensive coordinator, I'm sure, he's got specifics of what, he wants to do and the type of players that he's looking for. And, we used to go through that with every coordinator change that we go through and say, look, are we looking for, the 6'2.5", 230-pound Mike linebacker thumper? Or are we looking for more, the 6'1" and, 220 and more athletic Mike? You have to find out what the coordinator needs, to be successful in their defense. But the first thing is you got to earn your way into sub downs, and you got to stop the damn run.
Yeah.
And if you're not stout enough to do that, and you're not stout enough to do it with 7 in the box, as soon as you go to the 8 in the box, then you're putting your corners in a bad spot. So, I think they need to address how they're going to stop the run first, and then worry about the pass rush piece later. And if they have to bring people to cause pressure and to cause havoc, then do it. and then put your corners on islands if you have to.
Yeah.
But again, I can't. I haven't studied the roster enough, Brian, to tell you exactly.
No, I understand.
Who.
I understand. Yeah. Okay, I'll ask you this then, because I know you have studied. This is my last question. I promise.
Good.
I promise.
Well,
this is my last question. You've studied. You've got 300 players in the brain right now, and I'm not asking you to say individual players, but the positions defensively. If you had to say the strength of the draft at those defensive positions, can you give me a ranking of how you would say it's the edges, it's the linebackers, it's the safeties, it's the corner? Can you put them in order of where your brain kind of has the strength of the defensive side of the draft?
Well, that's easy. There's a lot of edge rushers.
Okay.
Now, and do they have to be every down guys? No. Because if you take a guy in the third round and he ends up being a sub rusher for you and he's playing 68% of the time, you're really, really happy. The linebacker group is a little bit light in number. So if you're waiting around till the fourth round to take one, you're probably not going to get what you want. The safeties are a little bit light. If you're not taking those in the top 2 rounds, you're probably not getting what you want. If you're looking for impactful guys. Now, if you're looking for just quality starters, you can find a couple more, at safety. The corner group doesn't have a lot of number 1s, but it's got a lot of 2s and 3s in there. And I'm not talking round. I'm just talking level of player.
Sure.
Probably down to about the middle 4th, you could end up with a real quality group. Even if you took 2, if you took one high and one, later, I think you're probably going to be pretty comfortable and pretty happy with what you get. But to rank them probably defensive end / edge, corner, then safety, then linebacker.
Okay.
These are the best questions you're going to get all day, sir, and you got them here on the Doing All Right podcast. We appreciate you very much for tapping in with us, and hey, we would love to have you back. We would love to have, and if you're in town, we got a nice studio. We got some soft chairs, we got some cold water, some beer if that's your thing. You can come through and visit with us, and we'll do it again if you want to after the draft when you're less busy if you want.
Hey, you guys just let me know. I don't mind doing this, and put it this way, it's nice talking ball. Yeah. Because there's a lot of times I'm not talking ball with the media. I'm kissing babies, shaking hands, and that whole thing. Which Brian knows how much I enjoy that. Yeah,
you love doing that. Nobody loves kissing babies and shaking hands more than you. And by the way, I'm so disappointed in you in helping Voch with his argument about a linebacker.
He's just correct.
I am so. This is the last time you'll ever come on this program. Trust me on that. All right, you know what I'm saying?
You did great, Drew. You did great.
Love you, brother, man. Take care. Be safe out there.
It's a pleasure, guys. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Drew Fabianich, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate y'all for tapping in with us. Salute.